Oh, hello. My name is Mara and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Okay, so about a year ago, I made a 5-star book prediction video, which I assume I will link somewhere in the cards for you guys to watch if you want to, wherein I made predictions about books that I thought might get 5 stars for me. And looking back on that, I think most of those guesses were pretty solid. There's a couple that I think I know myself better a year later, and I have different thoughts about. But I wanted to kind of just like touch in on how I did with those. And I think in a couple of weeks or sometime soon, I'll make a new one of new books that I think possibly could get 5 stars from me. So we will see how I did. So yeah, let's dive in. We'll start at my worst prediction and work my way up to my best. I didn't have any of these that I hated, but I definitely had some that did not live up to the hype for me. Okay, so starting with a 3-star pick, I guessed that I was going to give 5 stars to Housekeeping by Marilynne Robinson, and that is because I definitely gave 5 stars to Gilead by Marilynne Robinson. That is one of my all-time favorite novels. And this is kind of, I would say, probably her other most iconic novel that she's written. And yeah, it was fine. Like, it was fine. It was a perfectly good literary fiction novel. I just didn't really find a lot in here to wow me. Like, I thought the prose is clearly, I should say, the prose is clearly the standout in this book. I mean, it's beautifully written. And I'm fine with the subject matter. It's like kind of a multi-generational story of women trying to survive in the circumstances they find themselves in. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. It's just definitely not a 5-star book. It is solidly 3 stars. And then next, I have another 3-star one, which was Stiletto by Daniel O'Malley. And this one was also pretty disappointing because The Rook by Daniel O'Malley is, again, an all-time favorite book of mine. It's one that I would call very taste-defining for me. Like, it's a weird book and I really enjoy the weirdness of it. And I think, yeah, anyway, I just feel like it says a lot about me as a reader and helped me kind of like articulate some of the things that I really like in books. And Stiletto is the follow-up and it is good. It's just like nowhere near as good as The Rook. And it was overly long. And I think it really suffered for not having Mifenwe be our main character again. She's in it, but like not a central character. And while I really like the 2 new main characters we have, I just, it's not what I came to the series for, basically. So I would keep reading in this series, but it was a pretty big disappointment just because of how much I was hoping I would love it. 3 stars is fine. Like, it's not that it was a bad book. It just wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, clearly, because it was not 5 stars. Okay, and then we'll start moving into the 4-star territory, because there's several of these. So these are all books that were really good, like above average, but not all-time favorites, if that makes sense. So we'll start with The Lies of Locke Lamora, which was sort of a stretch pick for me to start with, because this isn't necessarily the kind of book I would normally give 5 stars to, but it was also just really hyped, so I was optimistic, and it was good. I really enjoyed it. It was 4 stars, but it wasn't as, it wasn't an all-time favorite, nor was it a favorite of the year. Then, one that was like less of a stretch pick, so I'm honestly a little surprised I didn't do better with it, was We Were 8 Years in Power by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This book, I think if I had read maybe a year earlier, I would have liked even more. So I gave this 4 stars, and I think that there's a different world in which I could have given this 4.5 or 5 stars. However, it is rehashing in a very beautiful way, and Ta-Nehisi Coates is a beautiful writer and a really provocative writer, but it is rehashing a lot of ideas that I have encountered in other nonfiction I've read, just because kind of the whole topic of like macro systems of oppression in the US has been a very interesting nonfiction area for me to explore in the last 1.5 years or so. So I think if I'd read this a little earlier, it may have been more impactful to me, and therefore I would have ranked it higher. But still, very good. 4 stars. Would recommend it. Just like it didn't wow me enough to be a 4.5 or a 5 star. And then I had guessed that Silver Silence by Nalini Singh, which I think is like the 16th, 17th book in the Psy Changeling series. I thought that this might be a 5-star just based on the tropes that I thought that it was going to have, and that it in fact did have. I really like in this world when the romance between the main couple is between a Psy woman and a changeling man. I also like that we were going to get to meet these Russian bear shifters that we've been hearing about for so long. I liked who the heroine was. Her name is Silver, and yeah, I liked her. So there was everything about this I thought I might like love and make it a favorite in the series. And I'd say the first like third of it, I thought like, oh yeah, this is going to be 5 stars. But I think it really runs into some pacing issues about a third to a half of the way through, which made it ultimately be 4 stars, even though it was still a really enjoyable installment in this series. And I just love this series. It's like one of my consistent delights every year. And then the last of the 4 stars is Magic Triumphs by Ilona Andrews. So I picked this as a 5-star prediction because the Kate Daniel series, while it was running, was my favorite running series. Ilona Andrews is probably my favorite currently writing author right now, just because these books deliver what I like, because Ilona Andrews delivers the 3 elements that I like best in books, which is some kind of a fantastical setting, some kind of a mystery plot, and some level of a romantic element thrown in. And that's what these books are, and they just do each one of those things with excellence. So the reason that this, though, was not a 5-star pick in what is, I would say, an overall 5-star series for me is that for the last book, I think it probably needed another 50 to 100 pages to really round out the plot that was happening. I think between this book, I think basically this book either needed to be 100 pages longer, or what happened in the previous book and this book should have gotten combined. But it's just some pacing issues is what it boils down to. But that being said, I would rather them err on the side of what they chose to spend their page count doing was like giving us time with all of our favorite characters, which I really loved. So like I appreciated that, and I know that they're gonna have spin-off series. So like I respect the choice of how they decided to use this last book. I just don't think, I think that because of those choices, it was never going to be like, yes, this is an all-time favorite in the series. I also think that the way that this series wraps up is very satisfying because I think you can somewhat see it coming. So I appreciate that it wasn't just like an ending out of nowhere, but it also didn't like totally shock me and therefore like delight me into giving it 4.5 or 5 stars. So anyway, all that to say, I think that like for a last book in a very long running series, like good job. I feel like they stuck the landing, like it didn't go off the rails, but it also didn't just like blow my mind. Okay, then we move into the like 4.5 star territory. So the first one was Shrew by Lindy West, and I gave it a 4.5 at the time. I think I would probably revise that to a 4 star, a very high 4 star, if that makes sense, just based on how it's kind of stuck with me. But Shrew by Lindy West I thought was an absolutely wonderful memoir. I think it said a lot of things really effectively that really resonated with me and that need to be said. I thought that she had a lot of really powerful anecdotes that revealed a lot about herself. So like the personal essay part of this really worked for me, but it also had a lot to say about like bigger systems and like bigger ideas. So yeah, I just think it was a really, really good memoir. I ended up listening to it on audio and she reads it, and it was really good to listen to that way. So I would definitely recommend, like I said, 4 to 4.5 star. Probably I would land more on 4 star at this point. So I guess with that being somewhat demoted, the only 4.5 star book I had was Iron and Magic by Ilona Andrews. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, there are going to be a bunch of spinoffs to Kate Daniels, and this is the first one. And it was so good. I was kind of skeptical is probably not quite the right word, but I wasn't entirely sold on the fact that they were going to be giving Hugh, who is one of the main villains in Kate Daniel, he was going to be getting his own trilogy. And I was like, okay, I can maybe see like a side book, but like a side trilogy, I don't know. But like this has set up so many interesting thoughts and questions I have. I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I just love Hugh. I love Lamora. I love like the whole other little part of the Kate Daniels verse that we're gonna get to see through them now. Yeah, I just like, this was such a good urban fantasy first book in a trilogy kind of thing. 4.5 stars. It was definitely a favorite of mine last year. So then this is the part of the video where I reveal none of my 5-star predictions got 5 stars from me. I do still have 4 books left on that list that I have not read, and I am going to officially tell you that I think 3 of them I'm taking off of my 5-star prediction list. So the first one would be Bayou Moon. I haven't finished this one. I read the first, I think 10-ish% and just was like, I'm not fully in the mood for this and I don't want to waste an Alona Andrews for a moment that I'm not fully in the mood for it. But based on what I've read, I think it's going to end up being somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4.5 star. I don't think that it can get a full 5-star just based on how the first 10% has progressed. So I think that that one will not get a 5-star from me. I also think that the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, while I expect that I'm going to like it, the more I kind of know about it, the more I think it's going to be more like a 4-star book that I enjoy as opposed to a 4.5 or a 5. I mean, I would love to be proven wrong and have my original thought about that validated, but I think it's probably more of a 4-star book, so I'm going to say that I'm de-predicting it. And then similarly, the more I've thought about it, I was guessing that Shirley by Charlotte Bronte would be an all-time favorite of mine. And I think that's too optimistic. I mean, Jane Eyre is my all-time favorite book, which is why I think I probably put this on here, but I think I'm being too optimistic. I think that I'll be doing good if this gets a 4-star, and I just shouldn't press my luck expecting a 5. And then there is one more book that was on my original list that I do still think will get 5 stars for me once I actually like get my act together and sit down and read it. So I'm gonna defer talking about that until I do my new 5-star prediction list. Though based on how this one went, I'm not really sure why I'm even bothering to guess again, because I did not do a very good job. Now, I guess you could say I did a good job of correctly knowing that the vast majority of these were books that were better than average for me. Like, they weren't 3 stars. Most of these were 4 or 4.5 stars. So like, I guess in that sense, I did a good job of picking books that I really liked. But yeah, maybe my takeaway from this is that it's hard to know what will be a 5-star. Sometimes it just sort of comes out of left field. So I'm gonna do this again. Like I said, I'll make another prediction video, and depending on how I do with that one, if I bomb out on it again, we may just give up on me trying to guess what 5-star books I have on my TBR somewhere, because maybe I just don't know. That will be another video for another day, so thank you for watching this one. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below. And I think that will do it. Hope you're having a really lovely day, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!